Manipulation doesn't begin with deception. It begins with perception. A manipulator's greatest strength isn't lying, it's reading, sizing you up, learning what makes you feel safe, what makes you second-guess yourself, what makes you want to be liked. Most manipulators don't come for your logic. They come for your empathy. Because if they can shape your emotional world, your desire to be kind, your guilt, your need for harmony, they don't need to control you directly. You'll do it yourself. You'll bend, explain, apologize, chase clarity where there is none, and they'll stand there calm, collected, untouchable. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that sabotage us. But Machiavelli? He spoke of the world's shadow, the part that weaponizes charm, strategy, leverage, and in his view, the only way to be free from manipulation is to see the game. You are not manipulated because you're weak. You're manipulated because someone noticed your patterns and used them. They saw the part of you that always gives people the benefit of the doubt, the part that fears being misunderstood, the part that avoids conflict at all costs, and they offered just enough approval, attention, or validation to keep you engaged, while slowly pulling the strings. This is the architecture of control, and it doesn't look like force. It looks like confusion. You keep thinking, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I'm too sensitive, maybe I just need to explain one more time. That loop, that's exactly where they want you. Exhausted, spinning, focused on you as the problem, not the dynamic itself. Machiavelli didn't write for idealists. He wrote for survivors, for people who needed to understand power, not as a theory, but as a defense. He taught that the person who understands perception wins, that the one who sees the unseen, the game behind the words, becomes unshakable. And this is where most people stay powerless. They don't want to believe the game exists. They want to believe in fairness, in transparency, in shared intention. But the world isn't built that way, not entirely. And until you accept that manipulation is real, not just in headlines but in your own life, you'll keep falling into the same emotional traps. The manipulator watches how you react when someone withdraws, when they withhold approval, when they guilt-trip you. And then they calibrate. They test your boundaries, not with a shove, but with a whisper. And when you bend, even slightly, they adjust their grip, not too tight, just enough. And because you didn't scream, you assume it's not abuse. Because you weren't yelled at, you assume it's not control. But manipulation is rarely loud. It's slow, elegant, psychological. You don't feel it all at once. You feel it later, in the way your intuition goes silent, in the way your confidence begins to flicker, in the way you start explaining things you never used to apologize for. The first step out of this pattern is not confrontation. It's pattern recognition. You can't win a game you refuse to admit you're in. And once you see the game, everything changes. You stop needing to prove your intentions. You stop offering explanations that fall on deaf ears. You stop over-investing in clarity that never comes. Machiavelli would say, protect your energy like a kingdom, because to someone who thrives on confusion, your over-clarity is a gift. It keeps them in control. But the moment you return to stillness, to certainty, the game breaks, because you're no longer reacting, you're observing. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you sovereign. When you understand how manipulation operates, you no longer see yourself as naive for trusting. You see yourself as someone who was untrained. And now you're learning the skill set. And skill dismantles power games faster than emotion ever will. If this content is making sense to you, then click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. The 5 strategies of emotional control and how to break each one. Machiavelli didn't just describe manipulation, he decoded it. He broke down how influence works, not with brute force, but with psychological finesse. To defend yourself, you need to see how control actually functions, because once you name the tactic, it loses power. So here are 5 of the most common emotional control strategies, and how to break each one. Strategy 1, withholding. The manipulator doesn't argue, they vanish. Not physically, emotionally. You set a boundary. They go cold. You speak your truth? They stop texting. You ask a question? Suddenly they're busy. This is not coincidence. It's punishment. Their silence isn't confusion. It's control. It creates a tension in you, a desire to fix things, to close the gap. You feel it as anxiety, but Machiavelli would tell you, this is a power move. They want you to make the first move, so you're the one who chases. The antidote? Don't chase. Stay centered. Let silence echo. Their absence will reveal the truth. And if they only show up when you're silent too, it's not connection, it's leverage. Strategy 2. Guilt framing. Every time you speak your need, they reframe it as harm. You say, that hurt me. They say, I can't believe you think I'm that kind of person. You say, I need more space. They say, so I'm the villain now. It's subtle, but over time, it trains you to suppress your voice. Because every expression is turned into an accusation. This is not vulnerability, it's distortion. Guilt is used to make you doubt your right to feel. The antidote: refuse the rewrite. Stay in I. Repeat your truth without performance. This is what I feel. I'm allowed to feel it. It's not an attack, it's awareness. When guilt doesn't get a reaction, it shrinks. Strategy 3. Love bombing, then withdrawal. In the beginning, they're all in. Fast attachment, deep connection, flattering attention. You feel special because you are, but it wasn't sustainable. And once you open up, the attention fades. Now, you're chasing the version of them that no longer exists. This is intermittent reinforcement, the strongest form of psychological conditioning. It keeps you hooked, not through consistency, but through hope. The antidote: name the pattern. Compare their current behavior to the beginning. Ask yourself, am I relating to this person or to the memory of them? And if the version of them that made you feel safe never came back, let that be enough. Strategy 4. Intellectual inversion. This tactic is Machiavellian in its purest form. They don't raise their voice, they outlogic you. You say something real, they respond with a TED talk. They dissect your words, redirect the conversation. Suddenly, you're not talking about what happened, you're talking about how you said it. You feel confused, inferior, small. That's the point. It's not about truth, it's about dominance. The antidote? Disengage the intellect. Bring it back to the felt sense. I don't need this to be logical. I'm naming what I feel. When logic is used to escape truth, clarity becomes your rebellion. Strategy 5. Emotional dump and distraction. Right when you start to speak your truth, they hijack the moment with their pain. You're trying to express something, and now you're consoling them. Their story becomes louder than your voice. Their wounds erase your need. And, once again, you disappear. This is not trauma sharing. It's deflection. The antidote: pause the spiral. I hear that you're going through something, but right now we're talking about me. If they can't hold space without taking it, they're not ready for real connection. Machiavelli's genius wasn't in promoting cruelty, it was in naming reality. He believed that once you understand the rules of power, you can operate from clarity, not fear. And every single one of these tactics breaks down the same way, with calm self-trust. You don't need to match their manipulation with manipulation. You don't need to win. You just need to see. And once you see, you stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop playing a game you never signed up for. That's how you win. Not through aggression, but through non-participation. How to train your nervous system to become manipulation-proof. You can read every book on manipulation, learn every red flag, memorize every strategy, but if your nervous system is still wired for people-pleasing, you'll fall for it again. Not because you don't know better, but because your body doesn't feel safe saying no. This is the piece most people miss. Manipulation doesn't just happen at the level of thought, it happens at the level of reaction. And if your default reaction to tension is to smooth it over, explain yourself, or seek approval, you're still vulnerable. Machiavelli understood that the strongest rulers weren't the smartest. They were the calmest, the ones who could hold tension without collapse, the ones who didn't flinch. To become manipulation-proof, you have to stop trying to be liked and start trying to be clear, and clarity is a nervous system skill. Because clarity without calm will still look like panic. It'll sound defensive, feel unstable. Manipulators thrive on that energy. It gives them openings, but when your body is calm, your no becomes sacred, unapologetic, immovable. That's when the game breaks. They can test your edges, and you don't react. They can try to bait you, and you don't explain. Because your calm isn't for sale. It's not performative. It's embodied. So, how do you train this calm? First, you stop rushing to respond. When you feel your body tense, your thoughts spin, your urge to clarify rise, pause. Give your body space. That pause alone is power. Because manipulators rely on speed. The faster you react, the easier you are to redirect. The slower you move, the clearer you become. Second, start tracking your body's cues. Tight chest, shallow breath, clenched jaw. That's your system entering people-pleasing mode. Don't override it. Notice it. Breathe into it. Stay. Let the sensation pass before you speak. Third, normalize silence. Most manipulation fills silence. It tries to corner you emotionally until you respond. But you don't have to. Silence is not weakness. It's containment. It's what makes your words land harder when you finally do speak. Fourth, rehearse calm rejection. Not just in the big moments, but in the small ones. Say no to things that don't cost you much, and notice how your body responds. Train yourself to survive disapproval in microdoses. That way, when the bigger tests come, you won't flinch. Finally, and most importantly, uncouple your worth from their reaction. The biggest hook manipulators use is your belief that someone else's feelings are your responsibility. The moment you drop that story, you step out of their game. Because now, their disappointment doesn't move you. Their withdrawal doesn't destabilize you. Their silence doesn't trigger your guilt. You become anchored, not because you're harsh, but because you're sovereign. Machiavelli didn't preach detachment for its own sake. He preached it as defense, as a way to move through a world that often weaponizes emotion without being manipulated by it. And that's what you're building now. A nervous system that doesn't collapse under pressure. A sense of self that doesn't need permission. A presence so steady, no one can twist it into something else. You don't need to be more guarded. You need to be more regulated. Because a regulated nervous system is the ultimate protection, not just from manipulators, but from every dynamic that tries to distort who you are. The art of non-reaction. And the moment they realize they can't control you. There's a moment in every manipulative dynamic where the person trying to control you realizes it's not working anymore. It doesn't come when you argue better, or when you finally get through to them. It comes when you don't react, when they try the guilt and you stay calm, when they twist your words and you don't explain, when they withdraw and you don't chase. That moment, that's the fracture. That's when they realize your emotional landscape is no longer accessible to them. And it's not dramatic. It's quiet, powerful, final. Machiavelli called this leverage, but not the kind that controls others. The kind that protects yourself. Reaction is what manipulators feed on. They don't need compliance. They need engagement. They need you emotionally invested in proving your innocence, explaining your boundaries, earning their approval. The moment you stop reacting, you take back all the energy they were siphoning. You break the contract, because whether you realized it or not, your reaction was currency, attention, fuel. The more you gave it, the more control they had. But when you become still, neutral, unreadable, you become untouchable, not cold, just clear. This is the art of non-reaction. And it's not passive, it's a skill. It means letting them throw their bait and not biting, letting them project and not absorbing, letting them spiral and staying rooted in your knowing. Because non-reaction isn't about shutting down. It's about anchoring in, in your truth, in your body, in your boundary. When you master that, you don't need to explain anything. Your stillness becomes the answer. Your silence becomes the wall. Your calm becomes your sword. And what happens then? They test you once, then again, and then they fade. Not because you push them away, but because there's no more space in you for their chaos to live. You stopped renting them rooms in your nervous system. You closed the door, and they realized, consciously or not, that the old game no longer works. That's when the shift becomes real. That's when the manipulation ends, not with a fight, but with a withdrawal they never saw coming. Machiavelli would call this psychological sovereignty. And it's not loud. It's not aggressive. It's simply the refusal to play a role you never agreed to. It's choosing clarity over closeness, peace over permission, self-respect over approval. And once you've felt that kind of power, the kind that doesn't need to control, only to contain, you never go back. So, if you've been manipulated before, that's not shame. That's proof you were emotionally available in a world that often isn't. But now you're seeing it, naming it, holding your energy in a way no one can twist. You're no longer baited. You're no longer bending. You're becoming someone who sees the game and simply doesn't play it. If you made it this far, you're not just watching, you're remembering, returning, reclaiming your inner ground. So trust that the video YouTube shows you next, the one appearing now, is not random. It's the next doorway, the next layer, and it will meet you exactly where you are. If this resonated, take a moment to subscribe. Drop a comment below, not for the algorithm, but to mark this chapter in your journey. We'll see you in the next depth. Depthoria continues.